Hi there, and welcome to the Paco Sako gameplay preview for people with a basic understanding of chess. Here we will show you the basic game rules. The movement of pieces. Each Paco Sako chess piece moves in the same way as a traditional chess piece. Creating a union. In Paco Sako, you have the option to unite your piece with a piece of the other player. For example, when the white and the black pawn meet, the white pawn can unite with the black pawn. Moving a union. Once united, both players can keep on playing with that union. You may only move the union according to the rules of movement of your own piece. For example, a white pawn and a black knight are in a union. White can move the union based on the rules for a pawn, and black can move the union based on the rules for a knight. Taking over a union. You can take over a union by playing one of your pieces into the union and releasing your original piece from that union. For example, a white knight and a black pawn are in a union. White can move its white pawn into the union and thereby free the white knight. The white knight may then be moved to an open square. The chain reaction. Instead of moving from the union to an open square, the white knight could also be used to create a new union with a freestanding black piece. Or take over another existing union, creating a chain reaction. The end goal. The end goal is to be the first player to unite one of your pieces with the other player's king. The game that emerges from this strategic gameplay will be dynamic, challenging, and a lot of fun. Enjoyable for young, old, experienced, and new players. It will create new openings, patterns, and tactics for finding a way to unite with the other player's king. A game with a mindful touch and a mind-blowing gameplay. Embrace the next move. Play Paco Sako.
I would like to show you something about the gameplay. We have the same board and kind of chess pieces as a traditional set, except with a different functionality. The black and the white pieces can merge and become a union on one square. With these unions, a new gameplay is created in which all pieces stay on the board. Pieces will not be taken, you can only create unions. Once unions are created, you can move them. You can take over a union and release a piece by replacing it with another piece. And eventually there's the chain reaction, which really brings out the Paco Sako gameplay. This game will be very much focused on patterns and creativity, and not on piece advantage. Nice about this is that both players stay in the game until the last move is made. There can be created an advantage in position and games can be fast. Though when both players stay in the game can develop to an endgame with a lot of unions. This will mean a high energy on the board, lots of possibilities, chains, creative options, and often both players will get closer to making the final move. Sometimes it's about having momentum and holding it. In the second part of the video, I would like to summarize some aspects and situations of the Sako game by showing some gameplay examples. When you start playing, it all feels natural, though soon you will realize you stepped into a complete new world. You can move your pieces around more freely simply because they won't be taken. For example, the queen can be placed on a square where the black knight can go to. After the union is created, white can still play on with the white queen, and also black may move the union. Now white opens up the line for the bishop, and after black moves his or her bishop, now white can release the queen and move her to an open square. In this example, white first moves its pawn out, and after the black bishop is played, white moves its queen. If the black knight now is placed in a union, white can immediately release the queen. You can say the square was covered. In this example, also the white bishop is moved into position. Now when the black knight makes the union and the white queen is released, the queen goes to the field which is covered by the bishop. If black defends this move by pinning the queen, white can also release the queen out of this union and create a union with the black king. Of course, in this situation there are other options for black, for example by placing a piece in between the white queen and king, or simply by moving the king.
Getting behind the lines.
In this example, I'd like to show you how it is easier to get behind the lines, and how this opens up the game. Here, for example, the black king is put into check by the white bishop. This happens through a chain which starts with the white pawn. In this example, the white queen comes into play, and after the black bishop is played, white can now give a check with an extra option. Black cannot defend by playing the pawn forward, because the white queen is in line with the king. In this case, for example, black defends by placing the knight on the line. The union is taken over, and again there is a check, but in this case black can defend by moving the pawn forward and breaking the chain. Something enjoyable about the chain. Sometimes chains can work for both players. In this example, the chain for white starts with the white knight. At the same time, black has a chain which either starts with the black pawn or the black knight. Here black breaks the white chain by moving the pawn away, or if it would be white's turn, white can move the black bishop out of the chain. Some cool moves. In this example, the square of the bishop will be used twice during a chain, and white will win the game. The white pawn releases the white knight, which will then take over the union of the white bishop. The white bishop releases the queen, which goes back to the square and releases the knight, which then creates a union with the king. White wins. You can see the white knight is placed in one move from g4 to g8. In this example, there is a double check and double options are created. The white knight releases the white pawn, which releases another white knight, which will then be placed on f6 and will give a check. At the same time, because the pawn is moved from e4 to d5, the queen will also give a check. Because of this double check, the king will have to move. Now the queen will be released and will be placed on a square which is covered by the knight. If black wants to defend by pinning the queen, white can still release the queen through the chain which starts with the pawn. And then the white queen creates a union with the king and white wins the game.
These were some examples of how the Shako game is played, and there are many more interesting things to tell. For example, how the game gets ever more lively as the game progresses. Kids love the fact they don't lose pieces, the action of creating unions, and the fact they may move several pieces at once. How this game is very well balanced. The creative options and tricks are sometimes mind-blowing. Instead of calculating forwards, you sometimes have to calculate in reverse when you want to release pieces, how the momentum can shift and the game can surprise you, and much more. If you want to know more about the gameplay and want to keep track of developments in openings and strategies, or want to explore the game yourself, visit our website at paco.com.